We are a bunch of wild and crazy Cleveland Browns fans, bringing you all the latest in Browns news. Tune in now. Boom, bam, it's a Thursday night, and we are the Fanatical Elfz Network. We are the Fanatical Elfz Show. I'm John, there's Steve.
We're just Fanatical Elfz.
We're Fanatical Elfz. And thank you for being here. We always like to start the show by welcoming everybody and then doing the weather report, because we have our colleagues are spanned all over the globe here. Even though they're all diehard Browns fans, they don't all live in Cleveland or northeastern Ohio, but that's okay, because the loyalty of Browns fans goes beyond explanation.
Unparalleled.
I like that. Welcome, guys. Steve, how are you on this Thursday night?
A little tired. Had a long drive today, but I'm doing great. Got back here. It was about 79 degrees. Nice little wind blowing. We're going to get some storms tonight. So far, this May has been the wettest May since 2010. And in 2010, we had a 100-year flood over a 4-day period that flooded 4 blocks of downtown Nashville. They had the Corps of Engineers had to release the water on Sunday, but
maybe all those crazy tourists left. I know you love those tourists.
Oh, no. We're coming up to CMA week.
Bless your heart.
Then after CMA week, it's Bonnaroo, where a little field down in Manchester, Tennessee, becomes the 5th largest city in the state.
Oh boy.
Great music festival.
All right. To tell my daughter about that one. She's the one that lives over in Seattle, but she's a big concert connoisseur. So
she would know about Bonnaroo.
Okay, I'll mention it to her. Very good. Well, Steve, we're happy to have you along. We're going to get into all this conversation about the Brownies this week. Crazy stuff. Sam, the man down there with the cowboy hat, our buddy.
Yes. Yeah, I'm doing well. Weather is mid to high 80s for the next week. Basically, we're gonna have a few storms in a few days, but yeah, it's nice, but it's gonna get really hot really soon. So I'm enjoying the cool weather where I'm not slowly melting into a puddle every time I walk outside.
Are you done with school?
I'm homeschooled, so we aren't done. But I had this week off, and we're trying to do a thing where we take 3 weeks on, and then take a week off every month, which is much nicer in my opinion than a summer break would be. But technically I'm not off, but we'll get into a point where we're finishing our classes and stuff, and so it'll be less and less school as the weeks go by.
Are you a junior right now? Is that
Yes.
Are you gonna be a senior then?
Yeah, I'm gonna be a senior.
Awesome. We have our graduation coming up for our kiddos tomorrow or Saturday morning, so we're looking forward to that. Go Hornets. I'm excited to be part of that this year, get to hand out a few diplomas to some of our 360-ish graduates. So congratulations to all of them. I'm looking forward to that. All right, Cleveland fans, Northeastern Ohio's fans. I've just wanted to kind of get into this topic of what everyone's talking about, because everyone is looking for stories to write about. First, I should start off with this. Let's just start off with Mary Kay, Steve's favorite, Mary Kay, my favorite, Mary Kay. Mary Kay is being honored. And Mary Kay, I'm sure you're a wonderful person, but your questions over the years, and especially when you don't have the inside scoop, are just annoying. But you are being honored to the Hall of Fame, I think, writers or whatever. So good job to Mary Kay. Steve, do you have anything that you'd like to say to Mary Kay at this point if she's listening?
I didn't know clickbait had a Hall of Fame, but hey, whatever gets you in.
So congratulations to Mary Kay.
ESPN by the way, Cleveland should have got a group award for that, especially this week.
We'll get into that. By the way, I also want to shout out to Eric Metcalf. I'm gonna talk a little bit about running backs and all-time greats. And Eric Metcalf, if you're watching or listening to our show, which would be awesome, I know you have your own podcast. We'd love to have you join us here on the Fanatical Elfz Network on this show or any of our shows. I understand that Steve right here, Steve's a friend of yours, or you follow each other. So that would be awesome.
Well, he follows me.
Oh, he follows. Yeah. Thanks, Eric. we love you. You were the best back in the day. Came from Texas. We're all a huge fan of yours, and
Big
I know
fan.
you have your own show. But my God, what you did back in the day, I wish we had a running back.
In this offense,
yes,
my goodness,
yes. So come onto our programming, please, Eric Metcalf. We'd love to talk to you more. Okay. So this week, I listened to 850 one morning this week for like 3 minutes, and I haven't listened to them exclusively like some of other people do, and on some of our contributors. I think Steve, you might listen to them maybe, and I know
only
Ethan,
to keep my computer awake. That's
right.
The only reason I have it on.
But I listened to Tony Rizzo, and I've listened to Tony, and I've listened to Tony Grossi and Aaron Goldhammer and all these guys for many, many, many years, just like a lot of you. But Tony Rizzo went off, and I know that it's these are talking points, and I know they're doing this for clicks, but it just was annoying as hell. I listened to Tony Rizzo talking about Shedeur Sanders not getting enough, that basically he's up a creek, and that what the hell are they doing? And after he said this on, I think, a Wednesday morning show, I had to turn it off. I couldn't listen to it anymore. And it was just ridiculous because it was just like there's 4 guys competing for these roles.
For 3 spots.
Yes. So they're not, one of them's not going to be here probably, in all likelihood. So I just wanted your takes initially on this week. I know it's the craziness of it all, and people are keeping stats supposedly of what they look like. Like Shedeur was 7 for 9 with 3 touchdowns, and like, oh my God, we're talking about, it's May 29th, people. Steve, what are your thoughts?
I think you said that I didn't listen. I was on the road. So I believe you said that Rizzo was convinced the Browns were trying to make Shedeur Sanders fail.
Correct.
Is that a correct assumption of what they were saying?
Yes,
they're desperate for anything. That shows you how the dysfunction is no longer here if the media has to create a dysfunction. Right?
Absolutely. Yes.
So no, they're it's what? These are the OTAs.
Yep.
And guess what, folks? We're going to have more OTAs June 3rd through 4th and June 6th and June 16th through the 19th. And then your mandatory is June 10th through the 12th. Mm-hmm. So we've got a long ways to go. And I hate to warn everybody about this, but this pattern that the coaching staff has for the quarterbacks is going to go all the way, going to go into training camp. They're going to do the same thing. Like I wrote in my blog and I said on my podcast, ignore who takes the first snaps, ignore the tandems, when they have 2 quarterbacks working at the same time, just ignore that.
Yes.
What you want to see is a fast-paced team organized event, and they look pretty fast to me. So that means I have a feeling we're going to have a different type of training camp come July.
Yeah.
A more serious one, which would be great. But I don't, quarterbacks, I don't care. Just remember, they're going to carry 3.
They're going to carry 3. Now,
how do you figure that out in July and August? Okay.
We'll come back to you. Sam, you've been kind of monitoring things from afar there. Do you feel like the OTAs right now, they're all throwing the ball? Are you concerned at all about what you're seeing, or you think there's any storylines, or just like Steve said, just par for the course?
It's with the the way the NFL player organization has built the practice is they've made it where training camp is more or less the only time you actually really truly practice, because they're worried about injuries and all these different things. And even training camp has become a shell of what it has of where it still isn't a whole lot of full padded, full speed practice, because that is an injury risk. Yes. And so you don't really know, because there is very little actual full speed practice going on. And so, they might do, they do their throwing drills. They do route running with the wide receivers, but there's never 11 on 11 full padded practices till a very end of training camp, mid training camp. And so you have to take everything that happens with a grain of salt, because at some point, the way they've created this practice, you don't really know if they're actually going all in or if they're kind of just doing walk arounds, just throwing the ball, just warming up their arm, and that's their throws. And so I think you should pay a small amount of attention to see, because you can gain and gather information. That's what the scouts and coaches are doing right now. But at some point you can't gain. At some point you hit a limit with the practices they're doing of what you can learn.
It's absurd to me. I've seen some comments, and this is because we're in this land, this craziness of social media, and we're part of that, and I understand that. But some of these people, these crazies in social media, are making this thing so absurd to the point where I saw somebody who's a beat writer here in Cleveland talking about Shedeur Sanders and how it seemed to him, this commentator, that Shedeur Sanders has changed his delivery from the time that he was at rookie camp 2 weeks ago to now, that he's throwing the ball differently, that the coaching staff must have gotten into his ear and done all this stuff. And I'm going, what the hell are you talking about? These people outside are just crazy that they talk about this. It's absurd. And this is where it pisses me off. I'm sure it pisses other fans off, but you just have to ignore it because it's just hogwash. Shedeur Sanders is not changing his entire, yes, he's being coached, but it's not like he's going to be this completely different. You want him to be better, but they're trying to suggest like everything's been altered, and like that's bull. Like all of us know that. Why did they put this crap out there? Why did to get people like me pissed off? Because it's very annoying.
So you'll comment. I do.
Like I'm just doing right now.
Yeah, there are a few people that I follow that know more football than I do, and someone mentioned that his mechanics have improved, and that's all they said. So yes, they sent him home. Yeah, the coaches said this is what you need to work on, and he's worked on it, and he's improving his mechanics. So that's good.
Yes.
As far as these OTAs, the one thing I notice a few, and by the way, when Mason Graham batted down that Dylan Gabriel pass, if Dylan Gabriel was 6'3", he still would have batted down that pass. He timed it perfectly. So let's get off the short jokes crap, would you please? And second, I noticed DeJuan Jones, a little slimmer. He looks a little more fit.
Yeah.
And then I saw a video today highlighting Zach Zinter. He also looks a little lighter and moving quicker. So those are two good things. Also, the guy they signed, Cornelius Lucas.
Yes.
That man is a big man.
Yes.
I mean, 6'8". Good Lord,
Holy
that guy's
moly.
huge. He's huge. My God.
Let me stick. Okay, so the quarterbacks, Joe Flacco, was interviewed earlier in the week by the media. And if you listen to any of it, it was very clever. Joe's 41 years old. He's a veteran. He's been through this 1,000 times.
He's been asked more stupid questions than the three of us combined.
In the 2.5 minutes that he taught or whatever he did, his answers were basically like, if I say this, you're going to write this. If I say this, you're going to write this. I mean, it was just, he's a smart guy. And, he talked about he's not a mentor. But he followed up by saying, hey, there are things that are to be always said in conversations, in locker rooms, in meetings, at team meetings. And if these young kids, and, Shedeur Sanders is young enough to be, or Dylan Gabriel, he's a little bit older, to be their own kids. If they're paying attention and listening, then that's great. But I'm not going out of my way to say, hey, I'm going to be your mentor. So he's stuck to that, conversation. I think that bodes well. I had a conversation with a colleague earlier today at work about Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco, because I think we all foresee, I think we could say in this room, Sam and Steve, that the ultimate goal is probably to get either Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders to be the guy. But in the short term, there's this sort of like, okay, you got Kenny Pickett, 26 years old, had some success. He was 15-10 when he played for Pittsburgh. So it's not chopped liver here. I mean, he's decent. We haven't had a quarterback that's been very successful. So start with that. And you have Joe Flacco. So we've talked about how Joe Flacco is kind of a known quantity. You know what you're going to get. So this is kind of more of a let's see what Kenny Pickett's all about. This is really his moment, I think. So do you like this conversation I had with my colleague was basically like, they're like, well, they didn't bring Joe Flacco in. He should be the guy that should be starting the season.
Mm-hmm. And
I'm like, okay, well, yes, but you talk to people in Pittsburgh, like I told you guys last week, Kevin Smith was talking about Kevin Stefanski's conversation because he knows him, that they know what they have in Joe Flacco and they want to see what they can get out of Kenny Pickett. And his thought is they're going to give it to Kenny Pickett to start the season and really hone in to see what he's got. If he's got it, great. They're going to run with him. If they don't, they could be releasing him somewhere early in the season. Or there's another team, maybe like New Orleans or other teams right now that going into the season might want to.
Injuries happen.
Yes. What do y'all think about the Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett? Sam, let's start with you. What do you think about that whole dynamic? How do you see it?
Well, both are Super Bowl champions, so you can't really use that as a thing. I mean, but I think Joe Flacco, he has the experience of being an NFL quarterback for a while now. And that's always a little bit of an advantage. You always have that bit of an advantage, but he's also much, much older than Kenny Pickett, which can also play into the physical problems of the NFL. How can you maintain your body over the course of a season? Can you maintain 100%? Can you be 100%? Are you going to have problems with your durability and your endurance throughout a game? Things like that are something that you have to consider with a quarterback of his age. But I mean, looking at Kenny Pickett, he didn't have the greatest of careers in Pittsburgh. Now, Pittsburgh has always had a few problems with their offense, and so he might not have been given a fair shot. I don't know. But I think he could be decent. I think Joe Flacco could be good. I think it would be best if you started Joe Flacco just since he has the more the bigger what's the word? Repertoire, I guess, would be what he has the bigger one of those, and so he probably would be better off starting. But I think it would be best if you never know, Kenny Pickett might go in one of the preseason games and be great, and he might win the job. But I think it should start with Joe Flacco, and if he doesn't perform well, you should just sub in Kenny Pickett and let him get the starts.
Okay, Steve.
I hate to say this, but I agree with Terry Bradshaw, who said that Kenny Pickett didn't do the Pittsburgh Steelers wrong. The Pittsburgh Steelers did Kenny Pickett wrong. Wow, boy, I picture that one over really well over there.
Well, considering
Pittsburgh.
what he said this week about Aaron Rodgers.
Oh yeah, he said he should just go back to California and
keep him in California. That's ridiculous. We don't need some guy like that. Come on, like he was like really bashing him good.
And even Kenny Pickett said he had to go to Philadelphia to learn a winning atmosphere. Man, ouch. Things aren't going well in Pittsburgh, but which is fine by me. He really wasn't given a chance in Pittsburgh. I would agree with Terry Bradshaw. I mean, before that, who was their quarterback? Ben Roethlisberger. What was their offense? Wait and see what Ben Roethlisberger does on the field. That was their offense. He had a bad offensive line. He really didn't have a running game. And Matt Canada, you know how Mike Tomlin hates to fire coordinators. So if you're fired by Mike Tomlin, you got to be pretty damn bad. So, I'm willing to give him a shot. The same kind of offense he ran at Pitt, which got him to be a number one draft pick, a first-round draft pick. Yeah. So, my mind is wide open to all 4 quarterbacks, and the Cleveland media should just relax and open your minds. Take a look at all of them as a group, and just remember, 1 will win the starting job and 2 will win the backup jobs. And that's all you got to talk about. Talk about something else. Talk about the running backs. Talk about how the defense can improve. How about that? Let's talk about that. Talk about the wide receivers. Let's talk about the tight ends. This Fannin kid. And you got plenty to talk about. Have they talked about how good DeJuan Jones looked after showing up last year, heavier than the 3 of us combined? I mean, come on. He looked pretty slim. So, they got a ton to talk about, but they got to focus on that one position, because that's what gets their attention of Browns fans. So, and that's what they're after.
Very good. All
Plain
right.
and simple.
Let's pause here for a quick commercial break. We do have some questions that people have sent us, and I want to get to those here after the break. This is the Fanatical Elfz Show, part of Fans First Sports. We'll be right back. Hey, we're back here on the Fanatical Elfz Show, part of Fans First Sports. Thanks to Hemisphere Coffee Roasters. They shake the hand of the farmer, and we love their support. Thank you. If you buy their coffee, go to our X page, buy their coffee from that link. You're giving us back 15%. So thank you. All right. One question, I know, Steve, you don't want to answer this, so I'll ask Sam, or I'll ask you both. But we did have one of our followers here on our page ask this. Let me find the question here. Ed Helinski, who's I believe he's a writer himself and has done a lot of, he was a newspaper guy. So thank you, Ed, for following us. He was asking us about get our crystal ball out and predict Brown's record this season. I know, Steve, you don't like to give projections.
1-0.
1-0.
1-0.
That would be fantastic. Boy, we would
every week.
Well, and that's something, right? Don't we want to get back to that? Like, that's what I keep thinking, like back in 2020, that was the message you heard from Kevin Stefanski in the locker room when they would win. He says, gentlemen, we got one, let's go get another one.
Here's my prediction. I don't want to wake up on Sundays and dread having to watch the game. And that death march through December was exactly that.
Yeah.
That's what I don't want. I want to have some excitement. How about that?
Yeah. Well, you're going to get quite a few. We have a few divisional games that first several weeks, right? Don't we play?
Oh, yeah. Cincinnati and Baltimore.
And Pittsburgh by week 6, right?
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of people are convinced that week 6 game coming back off the London game is an automatic loss to Pittsburgh because it's in Pittsburgh and we rarely win. But I don't know. I'm not going into the season feeling that. Like, I'm trying to, obviously we're Browns fans. We go through this time period. We kind of build up our spirits, hope to God that this could be the year. So
yeah, we'll go through the normal first game weekend where we're excited on Friday, semi-optimistic on Saturday, and chewing our nails on Sunday.
Well, Sam, do you agree?
Browns fever.
Browns, you can't beat it, man. Browns fever. Jesus. Sam, what do you think about the whole season ahead? Do we have a prayer? And by the way, people, send us your comments. If you're watching this right now live, please send us your questions or comments. We'd love to answer those live here on air.
Ask me. I'm the coolest one.
You are. He is the coolest one. Look, folks, Sam, if you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook or the X, Sam comes every Thursday night. He's our youngster, man. But he's got the sportiest looking cowboy hat. That is Sam. So we love the fact that Sam's part of our network. All right, Sam.
Yes.
What do you got? What do you got?
Record this early in the season, in the off season, is kind of silly. You don't know
what,
but unless you're the Cowboys, you haven't been eliminated from playoff contention yet. So looking at it, it's kind of or the Steelers, I guess. But looking, or the Steelers haven't been eliminated from the playoff contention. They've already lost their wild card game. But I mean, right now, I think I said in my podcast, I think there's better value if you do poorly than if you win. I think the higher picks. I mean, this next draft is a good quarterback class. There are some good talent in there, but I think it's far too early to think about that. I think it's just one day at a time, especially when you reach the season, taking it a game at a time, a play at a time. I think is the best mindset you can have for such a long and very tough season now with how the NFL has evolved into.
I listened to Nathan Zagura, who you like a lot, Steve, and Gerard Cherry today on 850. And they were talking exactly what Sam just mentioned about what, there's all this conversation about quarterbacks in next year's draft. But Nathan Zagura was saying, what if, for the Browns and the organization, if they can strike gold with one of these two youngsters and then get a higher draft pick in addition to the one that they're already going to have from Jacksonville, and you're able to then go into the next year's draft knowing you have a potential future quarterback for the team, you can hone in on one of those other positions, that you need either on offense or defense and go for it. And you're strengthening the team that way. And that's coming from Nathan Zagura, who you always say has the ear to the organization. And obviously, I'm upbeat about it. I don't believe, I know we've had people like Johnny Manziel come through our organization, but this is the 6th year for these guys. And I'm going to give Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry and the owners and everybody else the benefit of the doubt right now. And I think, if they can strike gold here with one of these guys, and I think it's really going to put it would be exciting, because then you can change that focus going into next year's draft on some of these other positions. What do you guys think about that, Steve? What do you think?
Well, like I said last week, in a perfect world, you'll find your franchise quarterback on one of these two rookies, and next year in the 2026 draft, you'll have the number 1 pick and the number 32 pick.
Mm-hmm.
That, in a perfect world,
that would be beautiful,
and we'd all be happy. And the Cleveland media would complain that they didn't take a quarterback.
No, they would complain about the stadium.
Well, that's another topic. Gosh, the whole stadium. They've already we're going to have a new stadium. Those of you who don't want this, or you still want to argue it, just stop just talking about it, because you're wrong. It's not going to, we're not saving the stadium downtown. It's not happening. The stadium is going to be at the airport. So start wrapping your head around that over the next 4 or 5 years. That's what's happening. Stop arguing and moaning and groaning about all of this. It's not happening. You can say, I was talking to Lou the other night on Stirring the Pot about how all these people who they hate this, that are really got their, they don't like the ownership. They like to quickly jump and call him a criminal, and how the Browns are a disgrace. And I'm like, for God's sakes, man, this owner, and I don't care. Like you're moving forward. It's called progress. It's not like you're not gonna win any extra games down the line by keeping the stadium down there and playing in the cold. You can't even beat the New Orleans Saints when it was 0 degrees, and so just stop it. Look to the future, be happy, and stop just being so negative. It's those of you who are out there that are listening to this or watch us, and I know some of you are anti-dome big time, but just stop, man. I don't know what your problem is.
It's the new NFL. I hate to tell you this, it's a new NFL. It's got to generate revenue. It's got to generate revenue more than 10 times a year, or just concerts in the summer. Believe me, I know this. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. CMA week is next week. Yeah. Downtown's going to be crawling with tourists from all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Taylor Swift comes to town. She does a 3-day concert. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's going to be more music playing downtown than
mm-hmm.
ever. And unlike Cleveland, I mean, Cleveland has a lot of residents who live downtown. Nashville mm-hmm. has hotels.
Yeah.
They have, and the surrounding counties have hotels. Mm-hmm. You know, we could slap in here like the 3 days for when they had the NFL draft. They had 600,000 people attend the draft.
Yeah.
Downtown. I mean, it's crazy. But that Brook Park, and I've already seen rumors where they're going to make it mandatory that you buy parking. That's bullcrap.
Yeah.
That you can't ride the train. That's bullcrap. Now, see, now we're going to get into the political lying part of this.
Right. Don't believe anything other than know that it's going to be built. We know that it's going to be built.
It's going to be built. It's going to be fantastic. Believe me, businesses are not going to suffer because of it. It's, you know, if you want to complain about not having a stadium downtown, then call your local politician and ask him, what the hell have you done the last 30 years to improve it? Because they've done squat.
If you're from this area or know this region at all, and Sam, I know you've never been up here, but really what's happening, and I see it just where I live in Columbus. So in Columbus is one of the fastest growing metropolitan areas in the whole country. And we've got growth out the yin-yang here. Well, Cleveland's not growing, but they build this stadium that direction. It's south of town. You know, it's a very busy, you know, all of that, this whole area. It's the whole, and the fact that the Haslams own the Columbus Crew here, they're a very popular soccer team, wonderful stadium that they've built here, by the way. The whole region between Columbus and Cleveland is very busy, and it's going to continue to be busy, and it's going to continue to generate money. And that's what this is. I mean, it's going to help the local community. It's going to help the state of Ohio. So these are things that I hope that people are just so anti about it and want to continue to call the ownership criminals, just need to go away.
It's also going to help Cuyahoga County because Brook Park's still in Cuyahoga County.
All right.
All right. New stadium.
Let's talk about, I did an article this week about quarterbacks and our favorites. And I also then gave a poll out to fans to see who their favorite running backs of the past, or just their favorites. Not necessarily the best, but who are their favorites. So I'll be coming out with that article the next couple of days. But we did do quarterbacks. And some of us who are on the show today, Steve and me, probably, we know the kind of the older fellas that I put on the list. I don't know if Sam's is familiar with some of these guys, but
probably not. No.
Bernie Kosar made my number one list as far as the fan favorites. Otto Graham, who was the guy that started everything, could also be in contention for that because he won 7 titles or brought 7 titles to Cleveland. He was the guy that started it all. So those would be
10 consecutive championship games.
That's another good point that I didn't mention in my article, but that's a very good observation. And thankfully, the NFL is recognizing those championships. It was nice to see that. I looked at some stats, and it shows now, a championship. So just I wanted to know, Steve, maybe you want to share your story about one of the quarterbacks you mentioned earlier off air. I thought it was kind of,
No, I was just joking about
I know,
that,
but it's still,
who doesn't like Todd Philcock? Mike Pagel. I always liked Mike Pagel. He backed up Bernie. Gary Danielson came in and mentored Bernie.
Yeah.
The old guy. Who can forget Don Strock? The only guy with a
Lou and I talked about
Cleveland.
Yeah.
He had the plays written down on his wristband because he flew in from a golf course.
Yes.
And played a game that Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, it
looked very odd, Sam. If you saw this guy, Don Strock, he was super duper suntanned.
Oh my God.
I mean, he was as dark as you could be. And he was in this uniform for the Browns. It was just something comical. It's like, it just didn't look right. So
I know, back when we went through quarterback injuries, Bernie got hurt, Mike Pagel got hurt.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mentioned Kelly Holcomb in the
let me tell you,
2002
Kelly
season.
Holcomb is the nicest guy in the world. I got to
him.
I got to interview him once.
Yeah.
And he is just down to earth. He gave me my favorite line when somebody talks about quarterbacks being game managers. And he always said, well, of course they're game managers. That's their job,
right,
to manage the game. And, he is a very interesting guy. Kelly Holcomb
started that season because Tim Couch was injured to begin the season.
Yeah.
Then Tim Couch came back, went 8-6 that season, but then got re-injured, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And Kelly Holcomb took over at the very end of the season and was the quarterback in the playoff game against Pittsburgh that the Browns almost won. As I recall, as we watched the game in Wichita, Kansas, friends and family were going, "Oh, they're going to win." No, don't say that. Don't say that.
Dennis Northcutt had just caught that ball. Oh. But anyway, we regress.
So Kelly Holcomb.
Yeah, Kelly Holcomb. I would go with that.
Definitely. Brian Sipe. Steve, you know a little bit about Brian Sipe. Sam, have you ever heard of Brian Sipe?
No.
You're like, no clue.
Cardiac Kids.
Cardiac Kids, came from California, played at San Diego State. Little guy, not big, 5'10", maybe 6 foot,
maybe around that. Yeah.
Yeah, but he came in.
He was the MVP 1980 season.
But
NFL
he had
MVP.
Prior to that, I think he was drafted by the Browns in like 75, 76.
Yeah.
And he played okay, but it wasn't until 79 and 80, those two seasons, that he really took off. Player of the year, I think, in the NFL in 1980, maybe that season.
He was the MVP in 1980 of the NFL.
And that was my first.
Over 4,000 yards passing.
That game, that season, that was the first time I can remember as a fan. I was 12, just being so crushed. I was so invested that year. It was the first time I really paid attention to the team. 1979, 1980, and
Red Right 88.
Red
Dave
Right
Logan is still open on the other side of the end zone. I hate to say
my mom's favorite player was Dave Logan. We always talk about that. Kid from Colorado State, right? No, Colorado. No,
Colorado. Yeah.
Played baseball, multi-tiered ball player. He was
drafted by an ABA team, an NBA team, and an NFL team. Him and Dave Winfield were the only two players to be drafted in three major professional sports.
Mm-hmm. Sam, who do you remember as a quarterback? Like, you've followed the team for a while now. Baker Mayfield, would that be the first guy that
probably. I don't have an extensive history with the Browns long enough to know all their quarterbacks past 2018 probably. So I'd probably say Baker Mayfield would be the quarterback I would have to pick, but who knows? Maybe Shitter Sanders will become that one. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, personally,
or Dylan Gabriel. They're about the same size.
At this point, I mean, I've been a proponent of Shedeur, but like if Dylan Gabriel, if either one of these guys can,
I don't care.
You don't.
Give me a bunch of these. That's all I want.
Now I'm doing an article on running backs, and I mentioned a few of them. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Eric Metcalf. Thank you. You were voted the most popular of outside of the bigger names. I know Eric Metcalf. You're a great talent. Jim Brown. I had, Nick Chubb obviously has been a huge fan favorite over the last several years. The other names I had on that list included Willie. I know Ethan Greenberg, our colleague, I called him Willie Green, but it's William Green. Run, William, run is what.
Run, William, run.
And that's from the old guy that used to call the games.
Jim Donovan,
who passed away last year. I don't know if you've heard of him, Sam. He was the play-by-play guy on the radio for the Brownies, Jim Donovan. So he passed.
I loved the Pruitts, Mike and Greg. Greg Pruitt was like Eric
Scat
Metcalf before Eric Metcalf. Metcalf. And Cleo Miller was another
Cleo Miller,
favorite of mine.
Well, and then the tandem that everybody talks about that you can't really separate them.
Ernest Biner and Kevin Mack.
Yeah, they had a fantastic 86 season, 85 season. Was it 85 that they both
had 1,000 yards?
That's very 85. Unusual. They both had 1,000 yards. So, a lot of great talent here in Cleveland. I'll be doing more of those shows. I'll be doing some fan favorites like ball players for the Indians, the Guardians, Cavs stuff. So if you have a favorite topic,
World Be Free.
World Be Free. Oh my God, that's a great name. Very good. No, final takes tonight. Sam, let's start with you. I know you're down there in Texas. You were watching us from afar, but what are your final takes this week? I know you just did a podcast. Thank you very much. Browns Breakdowns with Sam.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. There's not a whole lot still to talk about, but I think we should take these practices and try not to think too deep about them right now, because if I can't think, if Shadur Sanders or Dylan Gabriels or Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett has a bad week and a half of practice where they're just average, below average a little bit, we shouldn't say it's the end of the world. It shouldn't be a big problem, because they probably aren't doing drills that are of the utmost importance. Now, they still probably are helpful, but I think they aren't what we need to be paying attention to too much. So I think we still need to watch the practices, or at least read about a Twitter post that pops up on our feed about what happened, but just see what happens, but don't think too far into it, because it probably isn't going to affect the real way they play it in an actual NFL game.
Good observations. Steve?
I'm watching individual players. I remember that edge rusher they signed who played at Tampa. I can't think of his last name right now. It's hyphenated, but he's been having great practices. He's finally being used as an end and not a linebacker. And apparently he loves Jim Schwartz's system. I hear Mason Graham is doing extremely well under. I'm just looking at individual players on these things, and that's what you should be looking at. I mean, I've said this ever since last season: fix the D line, fix the O line, and everything else falls into place. So that's what I'm watching. I'm watching what the offensive linemen are doing, and I'm watching what the defensive linemen are doing.
Yeah,
that's all I care about right now.
We have another practice tomorrow, and then we have the more mandatory practices coming up. You said June 6th?
Yeah, the mandatory, I think, is 10th through the 12th.
Okay. And then eventually we'll come back the real camp, the
July,
the end of July.
Middle of July.
And then the season starts first part of September. So lots to discuss.
All I got to say is enjoy these OTAs this year, because if the owners even try to get their 18th game, the players are going to say, "We'll do away with this stuff." Do away with the voluntary off-season program, because the players hate it, and or condense them down.
Yes.
So, and that's going to be the new topic, because the owners really, really want that 18th game. Maybe we can go back to starting the season on Labor Day weekend, so everybody could have Monday off after the first game. I enjoyed the hell out of that.
Yes. Folks, thank you for tuning in. Did I mention this at the beginning of the show that our downloads? Did I say that off air or on air? I can't remember. Did I say anything on here about our downloads audio to the fans who are listening?
If you didn't, you should.
Well, I'm going to say it again. So we're growing. We're a small brand, but we're the Fanatical Elfz, part of Fans First, and we're crossing 3,000 downloads for the month, which is one of the best months that we've ever had. And we appreciate all of you.
This symbol right here.
Yes. We appreciate all of you who are listening to us, and we just need you to let somebody else know that that's a Browns fan and say, hey, listen to these guys. We got such a variety of commentators and colleagues here. Steve does his Dog Pound South shows on Sundays. Sam does his Browns breakdowns. We got Ethan Greenberg and Heather. They do their Best Doggone podcast in the land. Ethan also does Going Nuclear. We've got Lou Marconi with his Browns Blitz. Rod Bloom is live right now with his Browns Blitz. We got Joel Cade back, who's doing his What the Elf Was That? Jarrell Flint is doing his dog food radio. So we really appreciate. Did I miss anybody?
No, you got it.
Good. And you got myself. You got the Johnny Cleveland podcast. Yes, indeed. Keep smiling. Thanks again. We can't thank you enough. We just need you guys to share this podcast. Tell people to download us on Spotify, Apple, anywhere you can get your downloads. Listen to us. It really helps us. Both Steve and I write for the Fans First. Lou Marconi writes for the Fans First. Rod Bloom dives into it a little bit. So we really appreciate you reading our articles as well. Everybody have a great night. Go Browns.
Go Browns.
I got the classics on tonight. All right, folks, get